All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Madison Elliott. I am the substance abuse intervention, prevention slash social worker specialist at Talbot County Public Schools. And I have Beth Williams. She normally does these parent webinars with me. She has great updates on like marijuana, prescription drug misuse, all kinds of drugs and updates for its adolescents and teens and what's going on. So I love to have her on with me. Um, this one is prescription drug misuse and the new trends regarding teens and adolescents and the latest on their prescription drug misuse nationally, are the normal updates I like to give, and specific updates, specific stats. Also for these, so I do the webinars once a month. So I'm going to have them September all the way up until May. And now I'm going to be starting the Talbot Goes Purple student clubs all year round at the middle high schools. And I also wanted to share with parents what those club kids are doing prevention wise at the schools, and then kind of share my part with it. Because I do some elementary stuff as well. So I want to talk about this first with you guys. So September was, the beginning phases of Talbot Goes Purple student clubs. Went to the open houses, talked to kids during lunch, try to recruit them to join the student club, what it was about. So the club kids are going to be promoting drug prevention at their schools through projects and campaigns, and they're going to be getting service learning hours. They also get once a month free lunch, so like Chick-fil-A, pizza, stuff like that for joining the club. We also do different topics. So September was Purple Month, prescription drug misuse. So the kids we're educating their peers on prescription drug misuse, and making like a purple foldable board thing. And they're also going to be working on Red Ribbon. So Red Ribbon is a national drug prevention campaign that supports, they really do support, kids don't do drugs, don't bring it to school. So they're going to be working on projects for that and displaying those for their peers and educating them on vaping and marijuana use. Also, I'm going into fifth grade classrooms every so often throughout the year, and teaching the fifth graders about topics. Like for this month, I've been doing medicine and medicine safety. Also talking with the fifth graders about candy and the fentanyl candy phase that's been going around since like COVID. Teaching kids, stranger danger is very real. Do not take anything offered by a stranger, yell for help, go tell an adult. Always look out for your candy. After you go trick-or-treating, make sure there's no holes in the bag, make sure it's not ripped, make sure that your candy is your candy, stuff like that. Because Halloween's coming up, and this has been an issue the past few years with Halloween and random strangers coming up to kids and trying to give them candy that's not really candy. So I definitely wanted the fifth graders to be aware that that was happening. Also, the club students received their purple club t-shirts with an anti-vape design that was actually made by a high school student last year. And I wanted to share that with you guys. So this is what the t-shirt looks like. This was what the high school student made, the wanted Jewel Man. And then we added different things of what he included in his poster board design when he made it. So for crimes including lung cancer, heart disease, he actually did like the wanted sign and actually made the Joel look exactly like that. So he basically copied his design and made it into the next Talbot Goes Purple shirt, which right now is only being given out to club kids, but we want to offer it to staff and community members next year when we get more funding for that. So the kids were excited to get t-shirts, so that was awesome. And then next month I'm going to share with you guys, about what we're doing in October, November, December. So, parents can stay updated on what prevention is happening in the schools. Okay. So talking about prescription misuse in adolescents, I did a couple bullet points on the recent trends that are happening with that. So prescription opioid misuse has become a leading cause of accidents, unintentional injury, and death among teens, adolescents, and young adults in the US. There's recent studies that show prescription opioid use among adolescents and young adults. In the US, it's high, despite known risks for future opioid and other drug use disorders. So a lot of teenagers, adolescents are abusing prescription opioids more so than other drugs. And it's also falling in with use of heroin, which I'm going to show you guys a couple things about that in the next slide. Reported prescription opioid misuse is common among adolescents and adults, and often associated with additional substance abuse like the heroin. Greater than half of our kids are misusing prescription opioids, obtaining these medications through friends and relatives. So they're mainly getting them from at home with their friends' homes. It could be their family members' prescriptions, and they just don't know that they're taking them and stealing them, expired medicines. One question. When did the club start? We did sign our daughter up, but I don't think she was aware underway. I'm going to message you separately about this. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna send this privately to you. Let's see. Okay, so I did just message you back the person who had the Q&A. So let me go back. How do I, oh Jesus, hold on. There we go. All right. And that was kind of blurry. So there's also some studies in 2020. Those were the most recent study that I found. It was up in 2020. About 1 in 8 teens report trying opioids in high school recreationally, and 80% of people who use heroin started buying or misusing prescription opioids. And then the next slide here, I have a couple of them with like trends and graphs kind of showing how big of an issue this has become. So this one's a little blurry, but the green is the opioid deaths, and this is among, I wish you could see this. This is among adolescents. This is just for adolescents. Like 1999 all the way up 2019. In the green, this has been a pretty big increase in opioid deaths. It kind of goes down a little bit between like 2016, but then it goes steady between 2017, 2019.
It's starting to edge up again.
And it looks like it's starting to edge up again too. But this one is specifically high school students misusing prescription opioids and comparing it to heroin or other injection drug use. So the percentage of high school students who have never engaged in heroin or injection of drug use, whether or not they have misused prescription opioids. This is at so the blue is the heroin use, the orange is other injection drug use. This is at 9 to 8% at this is showing like around 10% of high school students, and a very small amount who have never misused prescription opioids at only 0.4% for both heroin, who have also never tried heroin or any other drug injection. So that's a pretty big, it's almost like a 10% difference there. If you look at it that way, this is for non-medical prescription opioid use as well. This one is the percentage of high school students who have misused or never misused prescription opioids across the US. This is just for high school students. This is showing 14% have misused compared to 86% who have not. But it's still 14%. So 14% of high schoolers are misusing prescription opioids. And this is not comparing it with also leading to heroin use. This is just prescription opioids. And then this one here is percentage of high school students who have engaged in heroin use and injection drug use by the number of times that these individuals have misused prescription opioids in their lifetime. So blue is the heroin use, orange is the other drug injection use. You can see here, this is the percentage of students up here, the 5, 10, 15, 20. You can see when it reaches up to like the 25% of high school students and 30% have also have tried or used heroin or another injection type of drug 20 or more times. And it's a 25% for other injection drug use, and a 29 points, so almost 30% I've also tried heroin while misusing prescription opioids. And these are high school students. That sounds like a pretty big concern to me. That's a pretty high number. So I also wanted to include some signs of heroin or prescription opioid misuse, since it's kind of running together, kind of a big trend between high school students, adolescents possibly using both or have tried both. I really wanted to focus on what you may notice or find, like in your kid's bedroom or at your house or their belongings, things to look out for: empty Ziploc baggies or paper that's like folded. It has like a waxy substance on it. Also like small balloons. I don't think they have to be inflated. I think it's just those like non-inflated small balloons.
For storage.
For storage, yeah. Spoons that have like burn marks on them, or if you find a bunch of spoons that are like missing throughout your house, that's not usually normal. You might want to check your child's belongings for missing spoons and look out for burn marks. If there's any burn marks on your spoons. Loose change that has like a powdery substance on it. So change you see lying around or in your child's backpack or something, and there's like to have like a white powder kind of like on their belongings or on this change that they could be trying to pay for their drugs for. Aluminum foil or gum wrappers with burn marks. Cans with the top part completely off of it. Or I was looking at or the burn marks. The burn marks on the can. So like the burn marks would be like in the middle of the cans, I want to say, towards like the middle of the can, like around the can, like in the middle towards the cans, or like holes in the cans. Straws cut in half or empty pens. So if you have like straws in your house, or you see straws that have been completely cut in half and they're laying around, or empty pens, so like pens with the ink removed from them, that's a sign that they're a way of them using heroin or they're basically trying to smash the prescription drugs and then snorting them or injecting them. And then syringes with included shoelaces that they can tie around their whatever body part they're trying to inject, or belts, same thing. Belts are trying to tie it around, tighten around their body and then inject or use. So those are some of the signs to definitely look out for. Those marks from tying a shoelace or a belt really tight. Your child probably have those like markings, like kind of like when you fall asleep and you wake up and you have that like weird like sleeping mark. It kind of would look like that, or like really red, and it'd be like around your child's arm or leg. Real quick, I want to respond back to this person. And then I'm gonna turn this over to Beth to
Okay.
talk about more like the scope of the problem, looking at it from a closer point of view with grade levels of these kids.
Great, thanks, Madison. And glad to be here. It's been a couple months since we've done the webinars, and really glad that you all are here. And we can continue on with a lot of this may be review, but again, Madison brought you some really good updates about how heroin use is now increasing, which we did see it kind of fall off a little bit, and now it's up again. So, and as we're talking, like Madison pointed out, we have a prescription opioid drug misuse problem, and now we have a street drug like heroin and all that, and it's always been that way. But we do find that many, if not most, young people that have progressed to injecting heroin or heroin with fentanyl or any of those other type of substances have started with using prescription drugs, misusing prescription drugs. And we'll probably touch on that a little bit later. But again, just looking at the data that Madison presented, so we won't take too much time on this, but 5% of 12th graders, this was 2022 surveys, 5% of 12th graders reported misusing any prescription drug, 3% of 8th graders, 10th graders, so it's right around 3% for 8th through 12th, reported misusing amphetamines. And remember that amphetamines are stimulant. Sometimes people mix them with an opioid and they call that a speedball. Sometimes, mostly if it's like cocaine mixed with something else, they'll call that a speedball, because you're going up, then you're going down, because you're mixing a stimulant with a depressant drug. And then a little less than 1%, up to about 1%, are reported misusing Ritalin or Adderall. And we know that we've talked in a couple of these sessions, we know that Ritalin and Adderall are stimulants, and a lot of young people feel that even if they may not be diagnosed with an ADHD type of condition, they feel that maybe if I can get my hands on some Ritalin or some Adderall, then I'm just going to be, better at sports or better in school or better able to concentrate, et cetera. And we know that with those types of prescribed stimulants, they are prescribed for specific conditions, and they will not be helpful to a young person who is trying to be more attentive or better able to concentrate. But young people feel that, there's kind of a feeling that seems to emerge when we talk to young people, that they feel like anything prescribed is going to be safer than something they get from the street or, from somebody they don't know. But we do know that the misuse of opioid and other prescription drugs has become incredibly, serious and of great concern for those of us that work with this kind of issue. Okay, so again, OxyContin, the misuse of OxyContin is never going away. Same with Vicodin. These are powerful pain-killing drugs. And I think we'll talk a little bit later about counterfeit drugs and how a lot of youth, again, are buying, if they can't get OxyContin or Vicodin from, prescribed medication in someone's medicine cabinet or from a friend, they may try to buy it online. And what we're finding is that the sale of counterfeit drugs online has just exploded. It's amazing how many people can simply go on over their phone and order through online pharmacies what they think might be OxyContin or Vicodin or Adderall or Ritalin, and end up getting something counterfeit. So we've talked about that. We'll touch a little more on that. Okay. 12th graders, these are all, they look like smaller percents, but when we look at the overall picture, it is concerning that tranquilizers and sedative drugs, and there's Adderall down there as well. We have to look at, why is it that youth, for the most part, why are they going to drugs that are calming drugs, sedative drugs, tranquilizers, opioids, and I think we, just not to oversimplify, but our kids are pretty stressed out and very anxious right now between the pandemic and, you know, the uncertainty of things going on in our country and in our world. And you know, our kids are stressed. And so they are turning to something that they feel will improve their mood or lower their anxiety. And of course, that's going to be a sedative or an opioid or a tranquilizer, because those take away pain, whether it's physical pain or mental, emotional pain. Makes you feel better. Okay, so here we go about the counterfeit medications, and we've talked probably a few times about this. This is very serious. The availability of counterfeit medications is on the rise. The 6,000 pharmaceutical crime incidents were recorded, up from 38% the year before. So that's the peak. You know, we're at our peak right now, and I'm sure it will only go higher with the easy access and availability of these drugs. So yes, the reason for the surge is that there's such a volume of fake or defective pharmaceuticals available through wider means. You know, somebody doesn't have to know a dealer to meet somebody and get these kind of drugs. You can go right on an online pharmacy or other online sites to get these counterfeit drugs. And again, most people don't understand that they're counterfeit. So it's not the same medication that you would get from a pharmacy, even though it might come in a little bottle, or it might look like a pill, or it might look identical to a prescribed pill. These are counterfeit. They are, there's no set dosage. We don't always know exactly what they are comprised of, what ingredients are in them. We don't know who has, you know, put it together. We don't know any of that. We know basic information. And if somebody has, you know, like a decent ability to get on the computer and search for some of these ingredients, they can put together a counterfeit pill and very simply. So again, examples include fentanyl, which of course we're very concerned about. Fentanyl pretty much, you know, it's the word of the day every day right now. Fentanyl is pretty much in everything. So it's in a lot of these counterfeit medications, such as, again, Xanax, Vicodin, or hydrocodone, Oxycontins, all of these that look, again, like prescribed medications, but contain fentanyl. And we also know that fentanyl, it does not take a whole lot of fentanyl to cause an overdose or to cause a fatal overdose. It's 2 to 3 milligrams, I think. So little teeny tiny amount that can lead to an overdose. So if somebody gets that little teeny tiny amount,
Why am I thinking like 0.6?
I don't know.
Or that's a different measurement.
Yeah, it might be different.
You're talking about
Milligrams. I think maybe it's 0.2 to 0.3. I don't have it in front of me now. But it's little, like a few little crumbs. You may remember
like,
that.
It's like less than like, let's shoot,
Yeah.
like less than like your finger right here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Exactly. If you had a penny, and you've probably seen this graphic before, if you had a penny and there were like 5 or 6 little tiny white crumbs next to it, that would be as much fentanyl as it would take, powdered fentanyl, to be a fatal overdose. So, and we know that many of these medications, you know, counterfeit, do contain fentanyl.
And they're making it look like candy now.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys are, since like COVID, they're making it look like candy. So they're targeting adolescents, elementary schoolers. That's part of the reason why I'm teaching them, you know, please say no to anybody who offers you candy, because now it's fentanyl candy and it looks like Sweet Tarts, M&M's, Skittles, Nerds.
What are the ones that Pez? I've seen them look like Pez.
Yeah. And it looks, I mean, you can definitely, like, if you look close enough, there are differences, but I mean, to an elementary school or to a kid, they're probably not going to pay attention to all that.
Right. And we also, you know, they're also packaged to look like Nerds or Skittles or whatever. You know, they're packaged in a way, and they're the same colors, and they look very attractive to young people. And I'm really glad that Madison is bringing that up in the schools, because that is an issue. And I'll just put as an aside, we have to also be careful of edible cannabis, you know, in gummy bears, in same thing, Sweet Tarts, in, you know, crackers, and just about any snack you can get can come in an edible form, edible cannabis form. So we have to be really careful now. It's changed. Those of us that do this kind of work, we have to really rethink how we discuss medication safety with kids, because, you know, we used to say something may look like candy, but it's really not. But now, you know, something may look like a so-called legitimate drug and is not. So it's really, it puts a lot more of the onus on all of us as parents to really be extra vigilant now. Okay. So we know about fentanyl. We know that just to go back about fentanyl before we get into xylazine, fentanyl is an opioid drug. It has medical use in a very carefully controlled medical setting, in a surgical arena, or if somebody is inpatient in a hospital, they may get fentanyl legitimately through an IV from their physician to control pain. What we know now is fentanyl, of course, is it's made, you know, counterfeit. It is made, you know, and added powder in powder form to all drugs, you know, from marijuana to being cut in with heroin or cocaine. Fentanyl's everywhere. And the reason it's such a, you know, it's so widespread right now is it's very cheap to use. It's very cheap to manufacture. It can be cut with lots of other things, so you can stretch it a really long way. So the drug dealers and manufacturers are making more profit. It has no taste, it has no smell. It really is very hard to detect. So with that being said, we now have xylazine, and xylazine has been, alerts have been coming out about xylazine. It is pervasive in the US. Philadelphia has had just horrific issues with xylazine. It is probably more deadly even than fentanyl because it's more potent and it causes other effects directly to the body. So in 2022, 23% of the fentanyl powder that was analyzed by labs and 7% of pills that were supposed to be just fentanyl also contained xylazine. Okay, so xylazine, there is no medical use for humans. It is used as a veterinary tranquilizer for large animals. So even people in our area here, I did a course a couple weeks ago, and people said, oh, well, that's what I use, you know, when my horses have to have surgery or have an injury, they are administered xylazine out of the veterinarian's office. So there is legitimate use for veterinary medicine. There is no legitimate approval for human use. Commonly known as, you know, trank dope, fetty powder. The people, you know, who are with the DEA and other authorities call it the zombie drug. Again, comes in liquid form for injection. Sometimes veterinarians' offices could be broken into, and the preloaded syringes that are supposed to be used on animals can be stolen. Again, like fentanyl, no taste, smell, or distinctive color, causes heavy sedative effects, but xylazine is not an opioid. Where fentanyl is an opioid, xylazine is not. So if somebody, very commonly, they're combined together, but if somebody is just on xylazine, which would probably be pretty unusual, the use of Narcan would not be helpful to them. But what we usually say is assume that fentanyl is in everything. So if you do encounter someone who has overdosed and you can administer Narcan, you can assume that something in that overdose was an opioid. Like I said, everything's kind of being mixed in right now. So xylazine, again, it's added to fentanyl because it extends the duration of the high. When people are on fentanyl, they experience that euphoric high, and xylazine just kind of boosts that up a little more, bulks it up. Fentanyl is very fast acting, so this just, you know, elongates the time of that high. Does not respond to Narcan, but fentanyl does. So again, always give Narcan, even if you're in doubt, you don't really know what the person took, give them the Narcan, it won't hurt them. Xylazine, again, just like fentanyl, just like heroin, swallowed, inhaled, smoked, snorted, or injected into the muscle or the vein. And we don't really have any information on whether it's being vaped or not. Do you have any information on that? No, not yet. So there's a rapid onset within minutes and can last 8 hours or longer. So that's a very long high for someone to have on an opioid. Okay, can cause dangerously low blood pressure like an opioid does, slows breathing and heart rates that can result in death. The big thing with xylazine right now, and I don't put pictures in about the ravaging effects of xylazine on the human body because it's horrific to see. It can cause damage to tissue around the injection site, which can lead to, increasing damage to the skin, large sores and ulcers that may develop into complex infections or lead actually to tissue death, which is why they call it the zombie drug. And from what I understand now, it doesn't even have to be around the injection site, but if people have, some kind of break in the skin, they can be prone to this damage to the tissues from the xylazine being in the body. That's my understanding. Have you heard that as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say fentanyl is being put in vapes.
Oh, fentanyl.
Yeah, fentanyl is being put in vapes. That's one of our major concerns now with all the kids vaping is hopefully there's not fentanyl in their vapes. But yeah, we're definitely taking that seriously this year.
Yeah.
Looking for any fentanyl being found in vapes in schools.
Yeah. And so, again, where there is fentanyl, there may very likely be xylazine because xylazine boosts it, gives them that extra oomph when they're trying to get that high. Okay. Withdrawal effects, just like opioids and fentanyl from xylazine, migraines, double vision, nausea, numbness, sweats, and body rattling anxiety. And there is no medical protocol as of yet for managing withdrawal from xylazine. Now, there are medical protocols for treating the skin, abscesses and infections. And a lot of cities, larger cities where there are there's a large presence of xylazine, they are giving out first aid kits or hygiene kits, wound care kits, so people can take care of the horrific, just awful infections and abscesses that they're getting. Okay, so now we have coming down the pike, nitazine. Now, there is not a whole lot of information, but what I found from the DEA is that now it's the new synthetic opioid that they think is going to be more potent than heroin or morphine and as lethal as or more lethal than fentanyl. So we just have, just keep getting more dangerous substances coming down the pike. We know, and Madison touched on this a little bit earlier, we know, according to the DEA, that 75% of all drug overdoses involve a synthetic opioid. So nitazine is another one of those synthetic opioids. There is no approved medical use for nitazine. Slang name, the only one I could find right now is zine, because this is kind of new coming down the pike. It cannot be detected any other way except through a lab test. So through labs in Philadelphia and DC, it has been found. So we know that nitazine is out there. Again, it's going to come in looking at very much like heroin or fentanyl. It's going to be a white powdery or a chunky substance like you see on your left that can be cut in with other things, again, to feel a little better, to boost that high, to give a little more longevity to that high on fentanyl or heroin. And it can also be pressed into pills like you see on the right. And again, what makes the pills in particular so dangerous is that they mimic other pills in terms of their appearance. So that could look like, any number of prescribed medications that people might think are safe to take. Okay, so that's nitazine. A little bit more information. It's sourced from China, meaning that people who manufacture it and market it and distribute it in our country are getting some of those ingredients from China. It can be found in powder form, either brown, yellow, or off-white, and then mixed into other street drugs, just like heroin and fentanyl. So you can have all of these. You can have, it's not, unheard of and not hard to imagine that somebody can be injecting something that's a combination of heroin, fentanyl, and xylazine, or heroin, fentanyl, and nitazine, or all of the above. I mean, we just don't know. There is no set formula or recipe for these substances. The only thing they have in common is that people that want to manufacture this or distribute these types of illicit substances are looking for more ways to make more money. So if you can find something that gives you even more of a boost, then they're going to put that into what they're selling. And because addiction equals, a customer. When somebody is addicted, they have to have it. We know opioids are highly addictive, and that, keeps the drug market, unfortunately, alive. So as with fentanyl, cheap to produce, leading to more profit. As with other opioids, it can cause slowed respiration and respiratory distress or cessation. Important to consider the possible presence of nitazene in an overdose situation, as it may require additional doses of naloxone or Narcan. So again, it's hard to see. We can't really, see what it looks like. It looks just like any other opioid or very similar, but we always want to assume, just as we're assuming fentanyl is in almost everything, we want to assume nitazene as well for overdose response purposes. Okay. So there are things that we as parents can do. It's disheartening. It's scary to see these new substances coming down the pike very close to where we live here. And there are things that parents can do to decrease access and also to decrease demand, or at least, open up some conversations with our kids about this. One of the things that everyone can do is go through their medicine cabinets once or twice a year and get rid of, Madison alluded to this earlier, getting rid of old prescriptions, expired prescriptions, something that we don't use anymore, all of it. Doesn't even have to be a painkiller. Everything you have twice a year, if you can go through, make it a habit of getting rid of pills or liquids or even patches, sometimes pain patches or nicotine patches, any of that, get rid of it all. Clean it out of your medicine cabinet. What you're seeing here are deterra bags, and these are, we give out quite a few of these in our county. They are a very easy way for someone to get rid of any of those drugs that they don't need. You just tear the top of it off, you pour in your pills or your liquid, or you can even put patches in there. Depending on the size of the bag, they come from like small all the way up to really big bags. And then you add a little bit of water and, kind of mash it all around, close it up, and the drugs are destroyed, the medications. So then you can throw it away. It's environmentally friendly. It won't hurt to throw it in the trash. I'm not sure if we have, okay. So we also want to, the end of October, I think it's October 28th is that last Saturday, is the National Take Back Day. So if you don't have a deterra bag or don't have time to get one, health departments have these, by the way, as does Talbot Goes Purple. I think, don't they still have some of those? They give them away at their events.
I gave them to nurses a year or two ago. I could double check if you still have them, but you can check with your school's nurse's office. But you would have to, as a parent, come to the school and get them yourself. We're not going to bring them home in students' book bags.
Right. But if you want to go to Drug Take Back Day, that merely involves bringing everything you have emptied out of your medicine cabinet in a shopping bag or a box, and bring it up to one of the drug take back boxes. What am I trying to say? Like the drug take back distribution.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say? The right word. The sheriff's department has one. Yes. Drug disposal boxes.
Yeah.
So the one that is closest to us in Easton here is at the sheriff's office, and that's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week box. You can come at 3 a.m. and open it like a mailbox and just drop your drugs in. It's on the outside of the building where the sheriff's office is. Maryland State Police, Oxford Police, and St. Michael's Police also have drug disposal boxes that you can, no questions asked, just drop stuff in. And I would look for, particularly through the sheriff's office, if they're going to be doing anything for Drug Take Back Day. Sometimes there will be, special exhibits, or maybe people giving away deterra bags or those kind of things. So, but October 28th is the date to look out for. Okay. And the other thing in terms of access is we also want to be sure that we're carefully storing our medications. Again, it could be blood pressure medication or migraine medication. It doesn't have to be just opioids that we're cautious with. So we want to store things very carefully away from, like my old supervisor used to say, away from little hands and little paws, because animals can get into as well. Our pets can get into medications if they're within reach. So store it in a lockbox or a pill pod of some kind. These are available at pharmacies. Maybe the health department has them. I'm not sure if they do, but you could call and ask, if they have any medication safes or anything like that. The whole idea is to decrease access. So people can't get, our homes are safe from, people who may be prying into things. Okay. So it's also, kind of, on us parents to, look at prevention. It's once our kids have picked up a drug, it then becomes extraordinarily difficult, as many people know, to intervene, to find treatment, to cut off the use of that drug, hopefully before they are addicted. So prevention, we're big advocates. Madison and I are very big advocates of prevention, because there are so many things that parents can do up front of this. The Purple Clubs are an excellent example. If you feel your kids would be interested in learning more or doing hands-on activities to actually prevent some of these things and get some messages out. Talk early and often to our kids, discuss the risks of using substances, along with, regular discussions about, intimacy or alcohol use or safe driving. Make this a normal discussion early on, about substances. What substances do we need to be healthy? What substances do we need to be cautious of? Medication safety, like Madison was mentioning. Support healthy activities, because we know that kids do better when they're kept busy and they feel like a part of a community, whether it's a team, a club, a religious group, a community service project. They do better and they feel better about themselves when they are kept busy and productive, giving back kind of things as well. Set clear expectations. So be very clear that you expect no drug use, no alcohol use till they're at least 21 years old, or tobacco use until they're at least 21 years old. We have to you set very clear expectations, and that comes with our language and how we model our behavior and all of that. Practice refusal skills. So, talk with them. What would you do if somebody offered you alcohol when you were out at the football game? What would you do if you were with your friend and he offered you some marijuana? Practice these scenarios. Give them comfortable ways to say no, to avoid, being pressured into using something. My parents would just kill me and ground me forever, or I have a game coming up, so I want to be clear-headed for my game or my exam. So help them practice that. And again, it doesn't have to be big, long, involved lectures. When you're in the car is a great time to talk to your kids, driving them to and fro to games or to school, because they're it doesn't have to be a big discussion. Smaller pieces of information consistently over time are the most effective. As you're setting clear expectations, be sure that you establish clear consequences. So don't just be, well, you're going to really be in trouble if you do that. Make it clear, make it that everybody knows, if you are using a drug or you're drinking alcohol, I'm going to, do something that's going to hurt, like take away your phone, take away TV, ground them, keep them home from, a school activity that they want to go to, keep them home from the football game on Friday night. You have to have a consequence that has some teeth in it, and it has to be clear. And then unfortunately, we have to follow through with it, which is the toughest part. But we have to be a parent and not a friend right now with our younger kids, our teens especially. We have to kind of be the safe place for them that they identify. I know my mother is always going to be clear with me. I know my father's going to be, really firm with things, but I know that's because they care. You know, when they're in their, you know, when they're 25 and 30 and 35, then we can be really good friends with our kids. But right now is not the time to be their buddy. It's the time to be their, you know, demonstrate their boundaries and, you know, what's expected very clearly. Okay, is there more to that? Oh, goodness. Okay. Do not provide alcohol or drugs. Obviously, we want to be good models, good role models for our kids. Giving, you know, we always hear from parents that, you know, very well-intentioned feel like if they have a party that has alcohol, then all the kids can stay at their house or leave the keys there, and they'll supervise the alcohol use. But, you know, it is illegal to provide alcohol to minors. We know also that the drinking and driving is one piece of that, that obviously, of course, we want to keep our kids safe from that. But, you know, there are many other health, what am I trying to figure out? Consequences from using alcohol or drugs. Even alcohol, you know, a few drinks over what somebody's tolerance can handle, their body can handle, especially if they're inexperienced, can very easily lead to alcohol poisoning. Or other, you know, risky behaviors, risky decisions. We don't want our kids exposed to that. And it's tough because there is pressure out there. There are parents out there that will provide alcohol to their kids. And, you know, that's going to be a tough one for parents that don't want their kids exposed to that. It's very helpful when you, they're the second one about paying attention, or number 8, paying attention. If we stay involved in our kids' lives and we get to know other parents that have the same kind of expectations that we do, it can be easier for parents. You know, build relationships with the parents from your kids' team, you know, or parents from their classroom. Stay involved in their lives, get to know who their friends are. Again, get to know those parents that live around you. And you'll find, you know, a niche. You'll find some people that think the way you do. And it does make it easier when you know other people that, you know, their kids, they know your kids. If they suspect something, they're going to be able to communicate that with you. Carve out family time. Relationships with young children is just absolutely crucial. Kids' main influence in life from early on is their parents. They watch us, they see what we do, they see how we react. They, you know, hear us when we say things, you know, or react to something. So we want to build those relationships from early on, so they're very strong, resilient relationships, because then they'll feel comfortable coming to us for advice or support. It also, there have been studies that have shown that the presence of a consistent adult in a child's life is what we call a protective factor. It does serve to, you know, keep them, you know, a little more protected from risky behaviors like alcohol and drugs. So, you know, sometimes people are single parents or they're co-parenting, and that could be difficult. But as long as there's consistency in parenting, that's very healthy. Prioritize sleep. Yes, for us as parents, but also for our kids. You know, make sure that they're keeping, you know, not too late hours and getting enough sleep for their mental and physical health. Help your child with an escape plan, like we said earlier. You know, give them some kind of an excuse or a reason that they can say no if they are offered a drink or a drug. So again, create a secret code can work. So if they're at a party, you know, have a certain sentence that they can text you that says, you know, I'm not feeling good, or I have a stomach ache or something. And that's how you would know that they need you to come get them. It gives them kind of that out that they can exit the situation. Intervene early if you expect anything at all. Don't wait to get help. There's a hotline number here. There are, you know, agencies in the county that can, even at the school, that can help you. You know, what do? I think this is happening. Can kind of give you some direction or some support in that. Okay. And if it is happening, you know, if you think your child is very early on, that maybe they tried a substance once or twice, absolutely intervene and just talk it through with them. You know, that communication is the key. I got to give you one more thing, one more prevention thing that it sounds like the simplest thing on earth, but research has shown that there is a over 50% effectiveness or I don't know how to put it, less chance that a young person will start using a substance if their family has dinner together or has a meal together. It sounds so simple.
Oh yeah, I keep hearing that.
Yeah.
Always keep
It's
seeing that.
almost like,
Yeah.
and I heard that years ago, and I always think of that. It is so important for families to do things together, and a meal, even if it's a 10-minute meal, where people are sitting together and connecting. That is the most crucial part. If you're in the car with your kids going, one's going to soccer and one's going to baseball, and you're eating in the car, you still, you can stop for 5 minutes and eat your McDonald's in the car and just talk, that's really crucial. So these simple things that parents can do that I'm sure most parents out there in our community are doing are just really have really big results. Okay.
Nice.
There you go.
So I want to take a minute for any questions. Also want to answer anything up here. This is going to be a private message, but if anybody has any questions about these topics, I'm going to give that a minute to, type in your Q&A. Yeah, the webinars won't let you speak out loud, so you have to type it in the Q&A. But if you don't have any questions, I just wanted to say thank you for logging on and taking the time out of your day to, let us teach you guys, give you guys updates about these different very serious topics of trends and drug use going on with our teenagers and adolescents. We'll be offering this again once a month throughout May or June. So definitely keep an eye on that. The TCPS social media and text messages are normally how my webinars get sent out, and also through my web page on the TCPS website under student services. Me too.